Welcome into the Todd Bowles Show. Casey Phillips here with head coach Todd Bowles. So I guess we'll just start with talking about big picture takeaways now that you've had a few days to digest the game.
Big picture takeaways, we played hard. We just didn't play smart enough. I thought we made progress in certain areas to a degree, but you got to play 4 quarters. We understand that. We went back to the basics this week. Fundamentals are important, and we're losing games off a lack of technique and fundamentals in the second half where we have a brain fart here and there. So we went back to basics.
And I imagine one of those areas you talked about maybe making some progress would be especially offensively early in the game, to know that you get a touchdown in the first quarter for the first time. There was a red zone score, explosive passing play, a 3rd-and-1 conversion, all the things that essentially I know had been the things you were saying that weren't happening enough, all happened on that first drive. Did that feel in that moment like that was something that the adjustments you'd made had worked, or what kind of led to starting the game specifically offensively better?
It was a good start, It was a good start officially because we haven't done that in a while, but we just have to sustain it on both sides of the ball, special teams as well. It was a bad start because we muffed the punt, but then they ended up going down and scoring, and we had a lead. We just got to learn how to hold it.
What did feel different offensively from start to finish in the game? Was it more about what you guys were or weren't doing, or what they were doing to counteract?
I think we started out very well. I thought we shot ourselves in the foot with a couple penalties, and we were just a hair off here and there. I mean, I thought we had some plays to be made that we left out there that we're trying to focus on this week.
And how about Brady's play? I know that he started out 6 for 7, 104 yards, and then went 1 of 6 for -2 after that. And it felt like there were at least a few throws or plays where the either chemistry or communication was a little off between him and his wide receivers. What did it look like for his performance, and then was that accurate of him and the wide receivers not quite being on the same page?
Well, it's more than that. It's the offensive line as well. So everybody's going to be on the same page. It depends on how much pressure he's getting on some plays. He could have made some better throws. We could have had some better adjustments down the field, and the offensive line could have blocked better. It's all inclusive as a group, and we got to be clicking at the same time for 4 quarters. How
did having Julio Jones back affect the offense and what you guys were wanting to do? And was this, 100% Julio? What amount of Julio were we getting there? And what did you see about what he means to the offense?
I thought it was good enough for him to go out there. Obviously, it wasn't 100, but, just having his presence out there brought some people up, and he flashed some things, and hopefully he gets better and better from there.
What did you guys see that told you the things that he can contribute to this offense of when you originally brought him in and the hopes for that, and then even if he's not at 100%, the things that he can do moving forward to affect this offense?
When we brought him in, he was pretty healthy. He was flying around. He was running around, and he was the Julio of old. Injuries started catching up a little bit here and there and kind of nicked him up, which slowed him down quite a bit. So we got to give him the time to heal, but at the same time, we have guys that can perform and make plays while he's not out there.
What did you see from Mike Evans in his game where, again, over 100 yards, and it just feels like you blink and Mike ends up with that stat at times? What did you see from his performance and some of the things that you were most pleased with about it, and then anything maybe that still wasn't quite up to the incredibly high standards that Mike sets for himself?
You know what you're going to get out of Mike. You're going to get toughness. You're going to get some big plays. He can catch the ball in traffic. He's going to compete out there all the time. He has that rough mentality where he's always going to fight, he's always going to get open, he's always going to make plays, and he's always going to compete. So you kind of take that for granted if you're not looking at him consecutively, because he does it every week. So you just want everybody else to come along with him.
And I felt like I saw at least there was the one play where 23-yard gain to Mike, he's like wide open. And it felt like there were more plays this week and maybe even a little bit against Carolina where he, along with several of the receivers, felt more open even than they had been before. Does it feel like there's some more separation happening for some of the guys in recent games?
At times, it's coming together. It just has to be consistent. It has to be consistent, and we got to have it consecutively, obviously, not just a play here and there. And we all know that, and we're working towards that, and I think we're close.
And how about the fact that he, had the long catch in traffic, 51 yards? That's actually his longest reception since 2019. What did you see in terms of Mike's response to the play in Carolina that had not gone well, and the way that he responded in the sense of still making some pretty big contested catches in this game? What did that tell you about mentally the way he had come into this game?
Mentally, he's outstanding. You know, Mike, every now and then, your great player is going to mess up one. You don't get to be great by making great plays all the time. You're going to have a lapse here and there. It was one pass. It didn't charge anything, but this week he came back with a guy draped all over him. He made a big catch. His toughness, his catch radius is unbelievable. His eye-hand ratio as far as him catching the ball is unbelievable, and you kind of expect that from him. He's always open.
And how about Chris Godwin? What did you see from his game? And I know specifically he had the 44-yard game that was thanks to a whole lot of yak. And what did you see from that play specifically and then his game overall?
Showed that he's close to being 100% and returning to full form. You know, him running after catch and catching in traffic and still going with the ball after that shows the strides he made since the season began. So hopefully that'll continue to open up and it'll open up our offense.
What have you seen about how defenses have been playing him in terms of how much they seem to believe he's back to pre-injury Chris Godwin? You know, the way they're looking at, and especially when you have Mike and Chris and Julio all out there together, what does it seem like that is going to do to defenses trying to face you guys?
I think they're doubling him and Mike pretty much a lot more. They got to see how Julio fits in and where that fits in as to how they'll play him. But right now they're going with the bread and butter as far as Mike and Chris, but those guys still find ways to get open.
I know you guys ended up finishing with 44 yards rushing. What led to that in terms of, we always talk about the idea of the situation of the game, what they're giving you guys, and then what you guys are executing. Those are kind of the three dynamics, it feels like, for what comes out of the way that you guys are producing. Which of those three things was maybe emphasizing most why you guys weren't able to get more of a rushing attack?
Oh, we got to run it more. We ran it more early on in the game. The first two drives, we ran it well. We had 10 points. After that, we kind of got away from it a little bit. We got to make sure we know where we are in the ball game and keep the flow of the game going quite easily. So I think from that standpoint, we can get better, but we got to execute when we do it as well.
All right, well, we have more coming up here on the Todd Bowles Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the Todd Bowles Show. Casey Phillips here with head coach Todd Bowles. We were just talking about the offense, and of course we started talking about the rushing attack, and I feel like you can't talk about that without talking about the offensive line. So for them, particularly now getting a chance to see Nick Leverett starting, what did you see from them as a unit as a whole, and then him specifically?
From Nick specifically, his toughness and his effort always pays off. He can be technically sound a little bit better, but his toughness always pays off. He comes to play. He likes to finish blocks. He's a breath of fresh air out there. He brings a lot of energy. And the offensive line is used to him from the summer, obviously, and them battling it out. He talks a lot. And they kind of get charged a little bit when they get him going. So that group out there hadn't dropped back much at all.
And how about now the decision to bring back wide receiver Tyler Johnson and then cornerback Ryan Smith to the practice squad? What were some of the decisions with that, and what that can mean to have a guy coming back on the practice squad that has already been here and knows the system?
For both of them, it's been pretty good because they've been in the system, and right now in the middle of the season, you don't have much time to teach people. So both of these guys are available. They can still play. Ryan's a great special teams player as well. Tyler plays all three positions, so you can kind of bring him in. He's the kind of catch-all utility guy, so if somebody else goes down, you don't mind having those guys available.
Time of possession is one of those stats that can sometimes mean a lot and sometimes not mean as much. It felt like this was a game where it did mean a lot, particularly to the way the defense was able to perform down the stretch. What led to such a discrepancy in time of possession, and then how much would you say it was a factor or the factor in the defense getting worn down at the end?
I don't think it was a factor. I think early on we got off the field on third downs. Later on we messed up a couple third downs that kept the drives going. A lot of those guys playing on defense with people hurt were also on special teams, so they were kind of wearing down a little bit, but we got to get the ball back. It doesn't have a discrepancy if you don't let it. We don't have that kind of excuse on defense.
And then I know to start the game, the Ravens had negative rushing yards after the first quarter, but then finished with 231 yards rushing. What did you see in terms of what happened on our end defensively in those two stretches, but then also the way they changed their game plan and how that affected what you guys were doing?
I don't think it changed much. I think they didn't run as much in the first half, but I thought we played well. I thought we misfit some things in the second half, and we took some bad angles, and the tackling was shoddy. We understand we got to get a lot better tackling, And in the first half, it was good. In the second half, it wasn't as much. Obviously, Lamar is a load to deal with. Anytime you face a running quarterback, he's going to account for some yards that you can't account for, but we shouldn't have given up that much.
Vita ended up getting a sack, which, to your point, Lamar Jackson, not an easy guy to bring to the ground. And that gives Vita 4.5 on the season, which leading the team, and then also a new career high for him. Explain to us why this season has worked so well for him, actually getting to the quarterback and getting him down, and then just how impressive that is at his position to have the team leading amount of sacks.
I think this season he came in shape better than he has in any other season. Vita's been working at it. He's been voted a captain because he's been doing so well, and I think he's taken that and ran. You know, it's kind of his time now. It's becoming his team on defense, and everybody's rallying around him.
And then how about Devin White? What did you see from his play? And we knew this was an important game for a position like his, particularly with Lamar Jackson and how much they all want to run. So what did you see, good, bad, and in between from him in this game?
The first 3 quarters, Devin was outstanding. I thought Devin, from a schematic standpoint, followed it to a T. His tackling was good. He's where he's supposed to be. He lined up, had 2 misfits in the fourth quarter. He had 2 misfits going right there just by alignment that helped him misfit, but we were good with Devin's game.
And then Shaq Barrett, I feel like definitely his best game of the year before he got hurt. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. Shaq, he got it rolling. He got it rolling pretty early, and it's a shame to lose him. He was the one true guy that can command a double team, so we got to do it by committee now.
And yeah, so what will that look like in your mind of you already said by committee, is that already the guys, like, is it expecting more from a Joe Tryon-Shoyinka? Is it just the guys that are going to have to actually step in for Shaq? How do you see that playing out?
Depending on the game, it'll change schematically. It could be, Joe will be on the other side. It could be Nelson. It could be Carl. It could be Avery some. It could be one of the D linemen, depending on what kind of scheme we're playing, or it could change up completely. So it's going to have to be a field thing, but again, it'll be by committee. If we were just regular 3-4 and just going out there, it'll probably be Nelson.
All right, well, we have more coming up here on the Todd Bowles Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the Todd Bowles Show. Casey Phillips here with head coach Todd Bowles. Jamel Dean, a guy that even with a lot of injuries, both last year and this year in the secondary, been the best ability is availability. He has been that guy, and then now got a big pass breakup in the end zone and leads the team in passes defensed. What have you seen from him this game in particular, but all season really, of a guy that has stepped up in such a big way between injuries and then even before that to have won the starting job, leading in pass breakups? What have you seen about why this year feels like the year of Jamel Dean?
I feel like mentally he's putting it together. He's always been in great shape physically, but understanding the game, understanding his strengths and his weaknesses, and understanding how to use them in the ball game has really helped him this year. And he's kind of coming to his own. He studies a lot. He spent all off season working hard. He came back in great shape, and it just transferred over. It finally transferred over all the way. He's playing with a lot of confidence. He's enjoying himself, and he's having fun.
And then how about the other guys that were having to step in to play alongside him, the backups with all of the injuries, guys like Dee Delaney and Zion McCollum, Keanu Neal? What did you see from those guys and the roles they were asked to do?
I thought Dee did a good job, maybe about 2 plays, and he got thrown into there without a lot of reps. So Dee's a heady player. He's like a Swiss Army knife for us. He can play safety, he can play corner, he can play nickel, and he gives you everything he has when he's out there. Zion is going to be a very good corner. He has some lumps here or there, a lot less this week, but he still has to see certain things. And the experience is helping him a great deal. We expect him to come into his own very soon. And Keanu's been playing steady. He's been very steady. He's been steady Eddie back there. He knows where he's supposed to be and where he's got to be there. Him and Mike both a little nicked up, but those guys are tough, and they kind of tough it out for us.
We talk about how tough a short week is going into a Thursday game, but then, of course, the nice part is you get a little mini bye coming out of it. What are the ways that you and the rest of the coaching staff wanted to use this particular time for the team, this mini bye, and what you wanted to accomplish now coming out of it?
Obviously, we worked the weekend, going over a lot of tape, seeing what we can do better as coaches first and see how we can put them in better position, seeing the things that we're lacking that we need to go back to, things that we need to hang our hat on that way and teach the players going forward and kind of streamline it when they came back. So we kind of worked diligently at that, doing self-scouting and everything else. So we figured out we have a good feel for what we want to do and how we want to approach the second half of the season.
Essentially changes mid-season. You have the idea of your staff, your player personnel, and your scheme and play calling. Those are kind of the lump sum things that can be changed. How hard are each of those things to change? How much can you really change mid-season if you see, as you guys are doing the self-scouting, how hard can it be mid-season to make some of those changes?
Well, they're not wholesale changes. They're just tweaks. So it's not hard to make tweaks, depending on who's playing and who can do what. Those tweaks kind of apply to those certain people. And you kind of know what you're good at right now. So you try to focus in on those type of things and hone in on everything that you can do and cut down on the mistakes and make sure whether they happen repeatedly or whether they're coaching mistakes or anything else. And you try to hone in on those and make sure those don't happen, because right now it just comes down to how well you can execute fundamentally and technically.
And the other perk of having that kind of mini bye is hopefully getting some guys healthier. What would you say is, we know now, Shaq Barrett to IR, but otherwise, any health updates, or what do you know about who is and is not potentially going to be able to rejoin the team or be available again this weekend?
Well, it's early right now, but hopefully, you want to say, hope Hicks practices this week, and maybe Carlton and Sean get to practice, and we'll see where Winfield is.
All right, well, we have one more segment coming up here on the Todd Bowles Show. We're going to look ahead to that game against the Rams. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the Todd Bowles Show. Casey Phillips here with head coach Todd Bowles. Looking at this Rams game, knowing how last season ended, do you feel like there is still the bad taste in the mouth from that game where it gives and a little extra oomph maybe to the team preparing for this, little seeking revenge on them?
We're just trying to win a ball game. Whether it was the Rams or anybody else we're playing this week, we need to win a ball game for ourselves. We're not going to worry about how or who we play going into this weekend. We're going to try to win our ball game and do everything we can. Maybe for certain guys it'll come up, but we just lost 3 in a row. So then going back to that one is kind of a moot point. We're just trying to win a ball game to get to 4-5 and keep ourselves in the hunt. And we're focusing on that. Obviously, they have a good team. They have a lot of talent. They won the Super Bowl, going into it. So it's going to be a tough ball game because they have to win and we have to win, but we just have to worry about ourselves.
And then looking at the Rams with or without Cooper Kupp, not knowing exactly what the injury situation will be, what does he mean if he's out there, and what does it mean if he is not in terms of what you guys are having to focus on and prepare for when you know what a huge part of the offense for them he has been?
Well, he's one of the best in the league, obviously. He has great stats. He plays hard. He blocks. He catches. He goes short. He goes deep. He does a lot of things for them. They have other guys coming back from injury. Obviously, Van came back. Jefferson came back. And they have Higbee at tight end. And they still got Allen Robinson out at receiver. So they have some weapons that they can use with Stafford. So it's going to be tough if he is out, because you don't know where the ball is going.
Yeah.
You know where the ball is going when he plays, but you still can't stop it, so it's just as tough. But we're going to worry about the things that we can control, and we're worrying about the things we wanted to correct during the week in practice, and we want to see those get executed in the ball game.
And how about facing a guy like Aaron Donald? It always feels like when people talk about going against him that everybody just kind of almost shrugs their shoulders of what are you going to do, that he's that kind of guy that no matter what you game plan or do. So how much is it about just trying to stop him versus then does that put you out of position against a lot of other people? What are the big challenges to scheme against a guy like that?
Well, you got to know where he is, definitely. You got to know where he is, and it's hard because they have other talent over there as well. But he's the guy that makes everything go. They have a guy on every level, but seeing him disrupting your backfield will be not very good for our team in the ball game. So we got to know where he is.
And what is true about a Sean McVay coached team? What are the things that you know when you're facing him, what that will look like?
It's going to be precision. They're going to be tough. They're going to be well coached. He's an excellent play caller. They're going to be tough on defense. And they're going to play sideline to sideline and use the entire field.
And then finally, how about going against Matthew Stafford and some of the most challenging things that he brings?
Obviously, him playing in the league for a while, he's seen everything. You're not going to surprise him. We just have to make plays. You know, we got to try to get pressure on him when we can, and we got to try to make plays when he has time to throw down the field. We got to be closer to the receivers.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us on this edition of the Todd Bowles Show. Coach, as always, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right. See you guys next week.